Thank you, Trevor. Somehow or other, at the age of 24, I landed the best job in the world. And that was to be assistant brewer at Gale's Brewery in Horndean. And it was all about, I was third in line, as I said, third brewer, and all about brewing beer. An example is I go in Monday morning at 6 a.m. The company was doing pretty good then. It was 1984, and they were selling a lot of beer. And I start off the mash. And it's also poetic, isn't it? The description of the brewing process. You know, sparging the mash and pitching the yeast and boiling the copper. It was absolutely fantastic, I tell you. I loved it, absolutely loved it. But there was a particular character I remember called George Longhurst, and he had a saying, and he would be there at 6 o'clock in the morning, all ready for me to go. He had a particular saying, and I think it's because someone he knew had a vasectomy. And to all his friends, he'd say, "How's your bollocks?" It would be his friendly greeting. So I'd walk in there at 6 a.m. in the morning. "Mike, how's your bollocks?" I knew everything was okay in the world. So,
were they okay?
Yes, of course, I haven't had a vasectomy.
We don't want visual proof.
But just an example, that Monday morning, there was 135 barrels of HSB I was brewing. There was, with the company, as I said, 1984 was doing really well. We've gone up to 2 brews a day on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And so that just first brew of the day was 135 barrels, 36 gallons in a barrel. That was 38,880 pints of HSB that I finished by lunchtime. That's job satisfaction, isn't it? Right, well, actually I finished, but it had been pitched with yeast, customs and excise declaration done, and I just thought, all those people are going to enjoy their quality product. It was fantastic. And he's forgotten the next bit. Anyway. Disaster, yes. Disaster. Thank you, Steve. And that's reminded me of something. And there's so many privileges of being a brewer at Gale's at that time. You wouldn't believe it, right? You wouldn't believe. I had the keys to the sample room, and in the sample room was a cask of every brew they did, probably for the 2 weeks, right, before they sort of dropped off the end. And they conveniently, my boss, Derek, conveniently arranged for a big box of 1 gallon plastic containers in the corner. And my job was obviously during the week, but I was on duty 1 weekend in 3. So I had to go in 3 or 4 times a day and check what happened with fermentation as the activity of the yeast heats up the beer. You've got to control that. So you have to, this is pre-computer and everything. You have to control the temperature and chill it so it doesn't get too hot, which means over the weekend you'd have to go in, check everything's all right, and then skimming the yeast off the top. One day, I took my friend Steve, who's sitting over there, and amazingly he does remember this, and I took him for a quick unofficial tour of the brewery, and then into the sample room. Anyway, we had a few tastes. I said, taste this one, yeah, it's a 5X, that's very nice, yeah. Very nice
Why you was
indeed.
heaven?
And there's some, if you have a favourite, fill up a gallon container. So we walked out with like 2 each. Disaster, I can tell that my very first day, my boss Derek Lowe said, he showed me around the brewery and he said, this is really important and I want you to listen. This is the yeast room. We skim off the yeast and store it for the next week and it's refrigerated, so you must always go in the yeast room and check that everything's okay. I was 24 years old. Had a great time, best job in the world. One weekend, I didn't check. And the Monday, come in, did the brew, pitched the yeast in. Next day, something not quite right here. And we discovered that the fridge mechanism had broken down and the yeast stream got too hot, killed the yeast, and that was a lot of pints down the drain. I wasn't very popular there. And yes, I'm still embarrassed about it. And what else is on the list there, Steve?
Started your career in computing, didn't you, Mike?
Yes.
The Christmas party, baby.
The Christmas party, yes.
Right, old ale.
Thank you, Steve. But the Christmas party, the working for Gales was absolutely brilliant. I mean, one of the things was I was actually supposed to go out to pubs and sample the beer and submit a report and then claim expenses. Can you believe it? Any friend you got who'll drive, that's great. And that's the Lord Raglan, that BBB, that's quite nice, yes. And the HSB, that was fine. And the 5X, that was really good. Very, very good, that pub. And I was in heaven, honestly. Honestly, it was great. And Prize Old Ale. That was cool. Mate, it should have been protected. They have.
Should have been. Yeah, should have been.
They have, historic properties.
Yeah.
The thing about Prize Old Ale is really, really hard to brew because whenever you moved it from one tank to another, so it was like 10%, you steamed out the pipes. And although you could drain them, there'd always be a little bit of condensate, and so it would dilute a little bit, and then it wouldn't quite be 10%, it'd be 9.8, oh no. And there was a chap called Billy, and he had a key or something, because there'd be like, what they say, heaven share or something. The level in the tank of Prize Old Ale would, over the period of months, would sort of drop a bit. I don't know. I think he had a pint glass and he went round the back of the conditioning tank and had a little bit of Prize Old Ale secretly, but anyway, so I can't believe it. I'm telling you that I actually left that job, and I feel guilty because the first distraction was sailing across the Atlantic, and they gave me 7 weeks off to sail across the Atlantic, and then a few months after that, I gave up the best job in the world to go backpacking around New Zealand and Australia. But it was all right because some other people got the best job in the world, and there was a Scottish girl. I did go back to see if I could have my job back, but they said, oh, we've got this really nice Scottish girl doing it. And then a very young Malcolm Irving took over my job. So that's the end of the story. So thank you for listening.
Right.